That you do. All right, gang. Let's get started. Today is lesson 10 of Colorado Contracts and Regulations. My name's Jim McCloskey. And let's go into your real estate manual. Way in the back, we're going to go over the glossary today.
Oh, I've been listening to this one for weeks.
Oh, have you really? Good, good.
All the time. My son is even learning them.
Well, with this...
Oh, physical obsolescence.
Really, that's funny, that's funny. And guys, you know, what this course is learning the language of real estate. And here are here it is right here. This is the whole course. We're going to go over this entire book this afternoon. And then the next two sessions after this, we're going to go over the 125 question quizzes. At the end of that section 3, we're going to go over both of the 125 questions. We're going to go over the entire book again next session. Isn't that something? So we're going to go over this entire book twice. And that's not exaggeration, we really are. So just hold on, get your pencils. I got plenty of pencils back there. Going to take a ton of notes. We're the only school in Colorado that I know of who goes over the glossary. And I think it's probably possibly the most important day of the whole curriculum. So we're going to rock on it. Also, I do have this on DVD, and you can have it. If you can buy one for $5, or you can put something on YouTube or Google or something about us. I'm not saying you have to give us a good review, but I hope you do. And if you put something on there for us, then I'll give it to you for free. So, and we have a good supply right now. What's that?
Can I get one after class?
Yes, get one right after class, you bet. Yeah, I have a pretty,
Review.
you bet.
Good review.
Good review. Well, I say, I can't say good review, but if you give me a bad one.
That would be a bribe.
And what-
Okay.
What law is that? Is that antitrust law?
The antitrust law, the bribe, yes.
Don't break your own rule.
audio CD or is it a video?
No, it's an audio CD, right?
It's an audio, it's just CD. Yeah, listen around and listen to it. Who's
No,
got it?
just put
I
one
think.
in your car.
Who's got it? Just a couple of you? Well, shoot, we'll take care of that after class. Well, you glad you got it?
I listen to it all the time.
Hey, listen, we're gonna go over this test, next session, 125 question test. I've got that on CD too. You betcha. And I got a good supply of those right now too. Again, give us a review, and you got it.
How many CDs are there left that you have?
I got 4. I've got 4. I got the 280 question quizzes at the end of law and practice. I've got the 125 questions. I've got the glossary. Yeah, the 280s, the glossary, and the 125s. We have 4 CDs.
4 reviews?
Yeah, so give us 4 reviews. Hey, there's a lot of them on there, guys. You know, go into Yelp, give us something on Yelp. Right next in the side there, we got those things on the board, on the wall, that you can just get onto. I'm telling you more than I know. Click onto those and then you can give a review, okay? And if you don't know how to do it, somebody here knows how to. So get in there and do it, please. Let's keep rolling. Let's go start rocking here, guys. The glossary. Please ask questions. Slow me down. I don't want to just shotgun this to you. Ask questions. Maximize your time here. This is an incredibly important part of the course. Let's talk about abstract of title. What 2 words tell us we're using an abstract? History of title or chain of title. And that's why we don't use them much anymore, is because that's all they do. They just show us what the history of title was. It doesn't necessarily show us the percentage of ownership or things like that. We don't use an abstract. Here, we use it in Grand Junction, west of Grand Junction, in that area there, they use it some. In the eastern slope, on the eastern plains, I should say, they use it. But in Denver, you're never gonna order an abstract, and it's not an abstract. It's an abstract and attorney's opinion. Write that down, guys. Abstract and opinion. Abstract and attorney's opinion. But all you're going to hear it called is an abstract and opinion. That's one type of title we have. We'll talk about the other 2 when we get to them. Acceleration clause. You get behind on your payments, what does that trigger? An acceleration clause. The lender's going to call the loan due. They're going to accelerate the loan and call it due. An acceleration clause. What does an acceleration clause trigger? An NED, which stands for Notice of Election and Demand. Who orders, who accelerates the loan?
The lender.
The lender. And how do they accelerate the loan? They call the public trustee, every county has one, call the public trustee and they say start a foreclosure action, and they will initiate a notice of election and demand. You have 10 days to get caught up, and if you don't get caught up, we're going to start a foreclosure action. So you get behind your payments, that triggers an acceleration clause, that triggers a notice of election and demand, that triggers a foreclosure. Those are the steps in the foreclosure process. What is that period before the sale called? It is a redemptive period. What is your redemptive period before the actual sale of your foreclosed property? Equitable period of redemption. Then they sell your property. Statutory after the sale. What is the equitable period of redemption for a 1 to 4 unit residential, I should say non-agricultural property in Colorado?
115 to 125.
Close.
110 to 115.
No, close again. Between the two of you, you got it. It's 110 to 125. Okay, 110 days to 125 days. They will sell that home, and then you have to get out. There is no more any statutory period after the sale, only the equitable period. In a deed of trust foreclosure. In a tax foreclosure sale in Colorado, yes, there is a statutory period. It could be as long as 9 years to redeem that property in a tax sale.
That's whether or not the person is
Disabled?
But
Yeah, well, it's 5 years unless they're disabled,
disabled.
then it's 9 years, yeah. Okay,
Not PC.
how are we doing? So what's the statutory period of redemption on a deed on a county trustee's foreclosure? What's the statutory period? We don't have one. We only have the equitable before the sale. Now we don't have a statutory. What is it for agricultural property?
215 to 230.
Very good, 215 days to 230 days. That means within that time frame, they will sell that property. And who usually buys a property at a foreclosure sale?
Investors.
Lenders, the lender buys it.
Buy it back.
Yeah.
Oh, so they buy their own property?
They buy their own property
and then
back,
turn around
yeah.
and sell it? Yeah.
Then they turn around and hopefully they don't make a profit on it second time around, maybe, who knows. But yeah. Remember, they can never make a profit at the actual foreclosure sale, but once they go on title, all bets are off. Then they can't make a profit. Okay, some of these we're not going to worry about. Acceptance, you know what acceptance means. How about acknowledgement? What's an acknowledgement? A notary. I am who I say I am, and I'm giving my signature voluntarily. Acknowledgement. An acre foot is the amount of water it takes to fill an acre of ground with 1 foot of water. It's essentially the amount of water it takes to support a family of 4 for 1 year is an acre foot of water. Acre foot of water. You see somewhere, somebody comes down and says, yes, I'm proposing this dam be built, and it's going to have 200,000 acre feet. How much is that going to support? 200,000 acre feet times 4, 800,000 people. 800,000 people, 200,000 acre feet. Each acre feet supports a family of 4 for 1 year. Think that's kind of a cool thing to know? Kind of is, isn't it? On the state exam, you very well could be asked something about that. Oh, by the way, guys, I heard Harry talk about that amortization schedule. You know, I haven't had it for the last 2 years. but I know it's out there. I had it for like 5, 6 years in a row, and then nothing. Let me show you what he's talking about. I'm going to look for this as we're going through over the next question. Administrator. And that's what someone appointed by the court because you died intestate, but you did have heirs. The court will appoint an administrator, and you did have heirs, so it'll be settled through that state's laws of, no, descent and distribution, and that process is called probate. 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 And they will appoint, the court will appoint an administrator to carry out what they decided to do. And that process is called probate. Well, shoot, guys. I'm gonna have to get one. Please remind me at the break. I probably got 20 of them up here, but this desk is out of control.
Yeah, he said that the gal sitting next to him had that table.
It's always up there, right on the side. You look up to your left, it's right there. Okay, that's an amortization sheet. It's totally outdated. There you go. Thank you. I'll get you a copy of this. You all have it in that big 3-ring binder somewhere. Well, I'll get you one. And what you do here, they're just going to say you have a loan that's a 20-year loan at 8% interest. You just get the amount of thousands. You know, we have say it's an $8,000 loan at 7%. You just for 20 years you go down to 20, go over with your percentage, and where they intersect, that's the number you put on it. Very, very frustrating. They still have that question. I'll keep and make some copies if you don't mind. I got it. You've all got one somewhere. What's that?
I said, that's an easy question, but if it's not in front of you, it's hard.
I haven't taught that for probably the last year or two because it just has not been on the state exam. I should know better. There's only one lousy question on it. It's a lousy question, guys, because it's so outdated. This is what we used to use to figure out what people's payments were. Before computers and everything, it's an amortization schedule. And this is the book we'd use to figure out what people's payments would be. I've had this for about 35 years.
How old is that?
I've had it for 35 years. Yeah, it's totally outdated. I got it from Chicago Title.
With the date on it?
Yeah. It's totally worthless, except it's kind of a memento for me, you know? For to even know what this is dates me. That's how old this is. And that question on the state exam should not be there, because you'll never use an amortization schedule. Okay, guys, so anyway, I want to bring that up, and I will get you an amortization schedule. Those of you listening to this on disc, give the staff a call, and we'll get one for you. Okay, then we have an administrator, of course. You die without a will. What's that called? Intestate, but you do have heirs. Your estate will be settled through that state's laws of descent and distribution. The state will appoint an administrator, and they will decide how your estate will be settled through the law of probate. Several different things you got to know about that. Someone dies, you know what dies means, intestate without a will. Died intestate without a will, but you do have heirs. Your estate will be settled through that state's laws of descent and distribution. They will appoint an administrator to carry out what they decided to do, and that process is called probate.
How come they didn't make the words a little bit more different between testate and intestate?
Well, they're just the opposite of each other. Because it's a testimony.
Okay.
That's what testate means. That's what
They're
your
so
will
close
means.
to each other that-
Yeah, I died with a will. You died testate. You made a testament.
Okay.
Intestament means you didn't write a testament. So it's really pretty good words. And that's the only time they're really used, is with or without a will. It's Latin. We learned quite a bit of Latin in this class, really. So, and then we have ad valorem according to value. First taxes always paid are ad valorem taxes. Then we have adverse possession, squatter's rights. Squatter's rights, they live on the property, and in Colorado it's 18 years, or pay the taxes on it for 7 years. You can then end up owning that property. We cover that pretty heavy in the Colorado portion of it. We covered pretty heavy In the national portion too, you're going to have questions on both sides of the exam on adverse possession. Okay,
Sorry, the ad valorem just means the taxes are due first on the list of debtors.
see, ad valorem means according to value. That's how they have the taxes, it's according to the value of the property. In Colorado, what is, okay, do you remember this from the other day, a couple sessions ago? What are the assessment ratios for a 1 to 4 family residential property in Colorado? 9.35%. How about for vacant land and commercial? 29%, 3 times more.
Unless you have cows.
Let's you have cows, then things change. Anyway, yeah, that's true. But guys, really, just remember that. Remember that. And those are the taxes. That's the first thing that's always paid when you sell a house or it goes into foreclosure, whatever, are the ad valorem taxes. Also, right alongside of those are special assessments. The city comes by and paves your street and puts in a special assessment. They will be paid first. Then, skip affidavit, agency. Agency. Agency must always be in writing. What's the main differences between agency and transaction broker? Agency must be in writing. Transaction broker does not have to be in writing. If you act like you're someone's transaction broker, you could be their transaction broker. Transaction brokers are default provision, where agency must be in writing. The next one, agent. In Colorado, we are not real estate agents. We're real estate brokers who may work as an agent. But it's semantics. You know, somebody calls up and says, "Are you a real estate agent?" We go, "Yeah, we're a real estate agent. I'm a real estate agent." You don't correct them. You say, "Yeah, I'm a real estate agent." You know what they're asking. Everybody cool with that? Alienation. What's some other words for alienation? Alienation clause.
Leave the property.
What's that?
You just leave the property. Or do, oh, you're running.
Alienation,
It's due.
due on sale, transfer. Alienation, due on sale, transfer clause. What kind of loan do we have if we have an alienation clause? Conventional loan, a conventional loan, because it's not
Assumable.
assumable if it has an alienation clause. If I sell this property, if I go off a title to this property for any reason,
That's correct.
the lender's going to call it due, an alienation clause. Any questions on that?
You on sale?
Due on sale, transfer, alienation, all mean the same thing. It's a conventional loan, because FHA and VA loans are always assumable, but you have to qualify. Amenity, something of value. Very simple. Something of value. Very subjective. I might think this thing is worth more than you would. That's what makes a horse race. How about amortization? That's what we kind of just did on that sheet of paper. It's the amortization table. I should have waited till this thing right here. But again, I'll get you one of these. And again, you just remember, you want to go down to the percentage, then down on the top here, and where they intersect, that's your answer on that state exam. You're going to have one lousy question on this. If you miss that question, you're still going to pass the state exam, and it's going to be right here on your left, right on the wall, right here as you're taking your exam. It's going to be right there. What's that? So anyway, let's keep going. Let's talk about the different types of amortization. What kind of loan do I have if I have a call? I have a partially amortized loan.
That it adjusts like to an arm.
Adjustable rate mortgage if I have a partially amortized loan. If I have a fully amortized loan, it means that when I make my last payment, the house is paid off, and it's the same payment every month for principal and interest. Your taxes and insurance will change, but you've got a set rate for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's the same. You make your last payment, you pay it off. That's a fully amortized loan. Top of the next page, appraisal. What's that word? Appraisal is the most
Probable.
probable price that a property will bring in a fair and open market. Yeah. Fully amortized loan is one where it's the same payment and there's no call on it. I have a 10-year loan, a 15-year loan, 20-year loan, 25-year loan, 30-year loan. In California, you can get a 60-year loan now. In some parts of California. And you just make the same payments. And there's, it's not that much cheaper than a 30-year loan. It really isn't. So, and you pay it for 60 years. Anyway, and so again, that's a fully amortized loan. Where an adjustable rate mortgage will have a 3-year call. Where in 3 years you have to go in and renegotiate it. But if it's fully amortized, it's etched in stone for the full 30 years. But you can always go and refinance it if the rates go down. I told you about my friend who has an FHA loan. They've got the equity now. They're going to go in and refinance it and turn it into a conventional loan because they won't have MIP. Mortgage insurance premium. Any questions of what I just said? I say any of that over again. How well should you know that? Just as well as I just said it. Know this stuff, guys. It's very cool that you know this. To help yourself, do yourself a favor and learn this, let alone to help your people. And explain loans to them, it's going to make you look so good and help them so much. You'll be able to spot the phonies out there too, guys. There's a lot of lenders out there who don't know squat. Remember, only mortgage brokers are licensed. Bankers aren't, credit union people aren't. Now they're regulated by the FDIC and the Office of Thrift Management, but there's no licensing requirements for them. They've got nothing on the line. If they make a huge mistake, a mortgage broker can lose their livelihood. And appraisal, talk about appraisers, guys. They are so overregulated, it's ridiculous. The highest fine I saw for an appraiser who screwed up was $64,000. $64,000 fine. And they told me, you want to go back to the business, you have to pay your $64,000 fine. What's the highest fine we can get as real estate brokers? $2,500. There's no limit for appraisers. Kind of wild. Appropriation. Doctrine of prior appropriation. How do we use that? In Colorado, in our water rights. First in time is first in right. Doctrine of prior appropriation. Guaranteed question. Guaranteed. No two ways about it. Doctrine of prior appropriation. First in time, the first one to use the water has the senior use ahead of anybody who comes after them. This is the first in time is first in right. Where else do we hear this first in time is first in right? Recording liens. How do we record a lien? What do we use? What's that piece of paper? A deed of trust. A deed of trust. Not a deed of trust. Aren't they the same thing? What's the difference between a deed and a deed of trust? Deed of trust is the property, it's the security for the, what's the loan called? Promissory note. We sign the promissory note first, then we sign the deed of trust, which is the security for that promissory note. That deed of trust goes to the lender. And the lender says, cool, you signed the promissory note, you signed the deed of trust, here's your deed. Now you own this property. Deed of trust?
Deed, instrument.
Promissory.
No. Well, first of all, we sign the what? We sign first of all the note, the promissory note. Then we sign the deed of trust, which is the security for that promissory note. And then we get the deed. And what's the icing on the cake? Title insurance. The title insurance. Those are the four main issues at a closing. Unless it's a cash deal, then the first two things aren't there. There's no loan if it's a cash deal, typically. Maybe they're getting a loan from somewhere else. So promissory note, deed of trust, deed, and then the title policy. Okay. And then We have assessed valuation. There's three types of value. There's contract value. Somebody puts their money where their mouth is, I will pay $300,000 for this property. That's the contract value. It goes then to an appraiser, and the appraiser doesn't appraise it to the contract. He lets the market tell him if that contract is accurate. So who determines market value? Who determines market value? The appraiser. What determines market value? The market itself. You're going to have both those questions. Don't miss them, guys. They're easy. Read them slow. Read them slow. Two definitions of appraisal. It's the most probable price that a property will bring in a fair and open market. What's another definition? Valuing the present worth of future benefits. Valuing the present worth of future benefits. We have contract value. Then it goes to an appraiser who figures out the market value. Then we have the assessed value. That's done by the county where the property is located. Let's keep going. Assessment, assigned party, let's skip all those down to an attachment. What's an attachment? We talked about this a couple sessions ago. Attachment is what? It's a lien. I'm going to sue this dude, and all of his assets are in his house. I'm going to ask the court to attach his house so he can't sell it till after the court case. That's an attachment. It's a lien. Then we have an attorney's opinion. Remember the abstract of title? It's not an abstract of title. In the pure sense, it's an abstract and attorney's opinion. That's where this attorney's opinion comes into play, is in an abstract of title. Animal unit. The grazing capacity of land to properly sustain one, and put it right above that, domestic animal. We're not talking chickens or rabbits. We're talking about pigs, goats, horses, cows, and their offspring. How much will each acre sustain? East of the Mississippi, it was considered an acre. Not out here. Out here, it could be thousands of acres to sustain one animal and its offspring. Animal unit. Then we have a balance sheet. That's a statement showing a company's financial position, the balance sheet. Then we have a balloon payment. We really don't have balloon payments anymore. We have a call. They call the loan due. You see, we have a 3-year balloon. Well, now we have a 3-year call. They mean the same thing. We just don't call it balloons anymore. You can. And people are going to know what you're talking about, but typically that's an outdated phrase. We just don't use balloons anymore. Bargain and sale deed. Who can tell me about that?
Implied warranty.
It only has implied warranties. Remember, it's a bunch of BS. Bargain and sale deed. Only has implied warranties. You know, do this. Above your balance sheet, put down profit and loss. Profit and loss statement. That's another statement that tells you what kind of financial stability your business has. Profit and loss. Between the profit and loss and the balance sheet, you got a pretty good snapshot of how well your company's doing. Then we have a beneficiary. When you see beneficiary, what's the first thing that hit your mind? A trust. Who are the 3 parties in a trust? There's the trustor, the one who sets it up. Remember, I put a piece of property in a trust for my granddaughter, let's say. I'm the trustor. My granddaughter's the
Trustee.
beneficiary. Then I appoint my daughter to be the trustee. She's going to transfer it to my granddaughter when my granddaughter turns 21. I'm the trustor. My granddaughter is the beneficiary. My daughter is the trustee who's going to handle that.
So that's not executor?
No. What is an executor? Where does that come into play?
With the estate.
Probate.
In a will. In a will, we name an executor, right? What if we don't name an executor? The court will appoint an administrator. Yeah, and that process is called probate. 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 Good question. Okay. Let's take another step. Another step. What type of deed brings a property out of a probate action when the deceased died intestate? One more time. Follow the thinking. What type of deed brings a property out of a probate action when the deceased, the dead person, died intestate without a will?
Joint tenancy?
What type of deed?
No,
What's that now? No,
Executors.
no.
Quick claim deed is.
Not, it is a quitclaim deed, but that's not what it's called.
If it was multiple choice, I'd know it.
Hey, but no, you probably would, you probably would. What type of deed brings a property out of a probate action when the deceased
Personal
died?
representative deed.
There we go. Personal representative's deed. Personal. That's just a quitclaim deed, or it could be a fancy name for a bargain and sale deed too, actually. What type of deed brings a property? Okay, one more time. What type of deed brings a property out of a probate action when the deceased died testate? An executor's deed, because in your will you name an executor. So there's two types of deeds to bring a property out of a probate action. Bargain is, what is it called? It's called a personal representative's deed, an executor's deed. Good, good. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Good stuff to know, guys. What are the two types of wills? Holographic, that's where it's my own handwriting, I don't even need witnesses. Another one, I'm on my deathbed. Non-cupative, holographic and non-cupative. You guys are gonna be so smart out there. You're gonna be looking good. You're really gonna be looking good. Okay. Bill of sale. Transfers title to personal property. How do you transfer real property? How do we transfer real property? With a deed. How do we transfer personal property? It's almost too easy, okay? A deed. How do you transfer personal property? Bill of sale. Okay. Blanket mortgage. Don't read them. What is a blanket mortgage? That's what we use for developers. Developers, a blanket mortgage. They'll take that square out of that blanket, okay? A broker, we know what a broker is in Colorado. We're all brokers. We're the first state to have single licensing. Everybody's a broker. Building codes. What is it that tells us what we can do? Zoning, what tells us how we can do it? Building codes, they tell us, they dictate the structural integrity of that building. Write that down, guys. Building codes tell us the structural integrity requirements. Structural integrity. The building code. Any question?
So what is zoning and how is building code?
What tells us what we can do is zoning. What tells us how we can do it are building codes. We have zoning, which is the highest level of government limitation. What's higher than that? HOA liens, HOA rules. They include all the zoning and building codes plus their own. They're more restrictive than the government. They include the government plus. Buyer's agent. I'm a buyer's agent. No matter who sells them a property, I get paid. I'm exclusive buyer's agent. Then we have capitalization rate. That's what? ROI, return on investment, is the capitalization rate. Capitalization rate. Return on investment is my cap rate. Let's bring that to another level, guys. We have our capitalization rate. How do we get to our capitalization rate? We can't get to a capitalization rate unless we have our net operating income, or NOI. ROI is cap rate, NOI is net operating income. We can't get to our ROI till we get our NOI. And how do we get our NOI? I'll start you out. We have our gross income plus, write this down, guys. If you haven't had it, it's coming at you. If you have had it, you should say it right along with me. You should know it this well. Remember, it's again, what our gross income is plus ancillary income, extra income. For pop machines, candy machines, laundry, whatever. Gross income plus ancillary income. ANCILLARY, ancillary income, just like it sounds, minus vacancy rate and collection costs. Gross income plus ancillary income, minus vacancy rate and collection costs. At this point, we're at our effective gross income. Effective gross income. We have our gross income plus ancillary income minus vacancy rate and collection costs. That brings us to effective gross income. The way to get to net operating income so we can do the appraisal is take our effective gross income. Who can help me? I know appraisal was 100 years ago, 2 weeks ago, 100 years. What was it? Gross income plus ancillary minus vacancy rate and collection costs gives us our effective gross income. From that we subtract our expenses. Now we're at our NOI, our actual bottom line. What is this property producing? Net operating income. Okay. If you haven't had that yet, guys, that was a really good review. Read that over a few times.
What was
Yeah.
that last thing, NOI? Gross
Net operating income. We cannot do, and we can, net operating income, gross income plus ancillary income minus vacancy rate and collection costs gives us effective gross income. From that we subtract our expenses. Now we're at NOI, net operating income. Now we can get the value for the property. What properties are we appraising if we're using an NOI, net operating income?
Apartment complex or a duplex or a fourplex or
I
whatever.
think it's five.
Multi-family home.
Five or more residential properties are considered commercial, or an actual commercial structure, right? We're going to use net operating income. We're going to use a capitalization rate. What are we going to use if we're appraising 4 units or less residential?
Gross rent multiplier.
Who said that? I love it. Gross rent multiplier. That's right. Gross rent multiplier. 4 units or less, 5 units or more, or commercial, we use a capitalization rate, a cap rate. Guys, this is all preview if you haven't had it. We spent an entire day on appraisal. Okay, then we have where the heck are we? Balloon payment, bargain and sale, where the heck are we?
Basis account.
We're on
Cash basis.
capitalization rate. There we go. Cash basis accounting. This is what we use for our escrow accounts. We only count the money when it's in the escrow. We don't count money that's on its way to the escrow. We count it only when it gets there. Cash basis accounting. We don't use accrual accounting for escrow accounts unless the parties request it. When we get to, in our part of the course that we talk about in pretty good detail, we talk about this cash basis accounting. This is in the trust account part of the course. We spent an entire day on trust accounts. Cash basis accounting, we talked about that. Cash flow. You could have a negative or a positive cash flow on a building. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. Buyer beware, caveat emptor. Certificate of reasonable value, that's the appraisal for a VA loan. A certificate of reasonable value, a CRV. That's for a VA appraiser. CRV, certificate of reasonable value. Boy, note that, guys. You're going to have a question about that CRV. Hopefully a light will come on. It's a very small part of our industry. But again, learning the language of appraisal, a CRV, certificate of reasonable value. Denver has a pretty good veterans market. If you go into Colorado Springs and Pueblo, that is the market because of all the retirees down there. But you're going to be working with VA loans, guys, and you got to know the language. You don't call up and order an appraisal. You call up and tell the lender it's time to order the CRV. Talk the talk. Use it right. Certificate of taxes shows the, who's taking closings? What's that word? Shows the, starts with a C, condition of the taxes. Write that down, guys. It's not only what the taxes were and if they've been paid, but the condition of the taxes. Are they in a special taxing district? Remember my story about North Glen when they first became a city. Sewer and water didn't work. Certificate, a tax certificate shows us the condition of the taxes. Chapter 7 and Chapter 11, Chapter 13, you don't have to worry about bankruptcy questions. There are no bankruptcy questions on the state exam, either national or Colorado. Chattel, personal property, personalities, all personal property, chattel. Don't worry about check. There's a cloud on a title. It affects the marketability. How do we eliminate clouds on a title? What are the most common clouds on a title? Liens. And how do we eliminate liens? The 3 ways. Pay them off is the best way. Get somebody to, before quiet title, quit claim. You get somebody to quit their claim on your property. The other one is quiet title, where we go and let the county put an article in the local newspaper. See if anybody has a lien on this property, come forth or we're going to eliminate it. Quiet title suit. So again, the 3 ways to eliminate a lien, help me out, pay it off, quit claim deed, quiet title suit. How are we doing? I can say any of these again. Let's keep going. We also have a color of title. This is where the title may appear to be legitimate, but it may not be. I pay the taxes on the property for 7 years. I'm said to have a color of title. I do have the deed, but there's a color on that deed. It hasn't been cleared. It's not as bad as a cloud on the title, but it could be. We have a collateral. Collateral security. Collateral, something that gives our loan its value, our collateral. Colorado Association of Realtors. We have our National Association of Realtors, Colorado Association of Realtors, and you join them by joining one of the local boards. Top of the next page, Colorado Coordinate System. Those of you who had law in practice, we talked about this. There's one question floating around. I haven't seen it in years. But if you see this question about the Colorado Coordinate System, the way we measure property with the Colorado Coordinate System is we use XY coordinates. Just write that on there somewhere, XY coordinates. Commingling. I mix my funds or the company's funds into private escrow accounts. Commingling. Criminal offense. Nothing to take lightly. Commingling. I mix my money or the company's money into escrow accounts. But I open up an escrow account, I have to have some of my own money in there. How much of my own money can I have in there? I love it. What's the magic word? Maintain. Enough to maintain the account. Enough to maintain the account. Write that somewhere around there, that commingling. Enough to maintain the account. And we talk about this several times in this course. Then, common interest community, CIC community. What should be coming to mind when I think about a CIC community?
CCNRs.
Well, yeah, but what type of community am I talking about if it's a common interest community?
Yeah, condos,
Condominiums. Because what do I own when I own a condominium? I have an air lot. I own the interior airspace. I don't own the walls, I don't own the ceiling or the floors, I don't own the land. But everybody in that subdivision owns all the exterior walls and all the land. And the swimming pool and the tennis courts as tenants in common. It's a common interest community.
Not a co-op.
Not a co-op. A co-op, you don't even own your property. What do you own in a co-op, Ralph? You own stock in a corporation. You have a corporation that owns that apartment building. You don't buy the individual units, you buy stock in the corporation equal to the value of those units. Because that you don't get a deed, you get a guaranteed question on the state exam.
Proprietary lease.
Proprietary lease on a co-op, guys, proprietary lease. Okay. And we talked about common interest community. What's some other words? Common interest community. We talked about CCNRs. What the heck does that stand for? Covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Covenants, conditions, and restrictions. What else?
HOA.
What's that?
HOA.
Just the HOA documents?
Bylaws.
The bylaws of the corporation? Governing documents? Guys, these are all interchangeable as real estate brokers. If you're a manager, they are different. Okay. Who in here has taken that class? I know Miles has taken it, the community association manager. Who else is taking it right now? Anybody? How's that class coming for you, Miles?
It's going really well.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a neat little like side industry to real estate.
It really is. It really is. Has it helped you with this course, or did it make it just more overwhelming?
No, it helps with this course. It
Yeah.
goes over some more basics.
Yeah.
Within this course.
It really does. It helps you with this course, guys, and this course helps with that course.
Lauren teaches that?
Lauren teaches it, yeah. I stick my 2 cents in every now and then, but Lauren runs with the ball. He takes it. He does a really good job with it. Okay, I told you about that one, first or second time we taught it, Lauren taught it. And one guy I was going down south, and this guy said he needed a ride down South Broadway. I said, well, I'll take you on down there. So I'm driving him along. He doesn't know me from Adam, you know. And I said, yeah, Lauren teaches that class, and I said, yeah, I teach, most of the other classes. And he said, boy, you have big shoes to fill. I went, I love it. I love it when people brag about the other instructors. That's fantastic. Anyway. So, common interest community, CIC. How about common law? Colorado's a common law state. Our laws are made in session. They're made in court. Common law, for the most part. We do have statutory laws too, but they're usually upheld or created in court. Then we have community property. Remember, anything I bring into the marriage remains mine. Anything I get by gift or inheritance during the marriage is mine. Is what we produce together during the marriage. That's the community property. Any questions on that?
There's gonna be a question on that, huh?
Well, count on it. There's quite a few questions on taking title, as well there should be. We've got to know how to take title, guys. What are the 3 ways we can take title in Colorado?
Joint tenancy,
Joint tenancy,
tenancy in common,
tenancy in common,
tenancy in
severalty, individual ownership, joint tenancy with right of survivorship, and tenancy in common, which is our default provision. If we leave that line blank, it will default to tenancy in common. Condemnation. What are the 4 ways we use condemnation in Colorado?
Blighted building,
Blighted building,
eminent domain,
eminent domain,
water rights.
water, not rights,
Rights.
water,
They changing.
uses, water uses, and inverse condemnation. How the government takes over rights of ways. Let's do it again. The four ways we utilize condemnation: water usage. What are the four ways we use water?
Recreational,
Agricultural, commercial, recreational, and of course the number one, of course, is domestic household. Domestic or household. We change one, we want to change one ahead, we condemn the one ahead of it and move it in its place. Eminent domain, inverse condemnation, and a blighted building. An old building, just tear it down. The four ways we utilize condemnation in Colorado. Okay. Construction mortgage are always expensive, they're always short-term. Construction mortgage. Constructive notice. How do we give constructive notice? Don't read it. We talk about this many times, guys. You should have this down. Bam. Why do we record a deed? To give constructive notice of our ownership. What's that mean? Nobody on the planet can say they don't know I own this property. Constructive notice. And another way to give constructive notice is
possession.
take possession. Take possession. Constructive notice, guys. Don't miss those on the exam. That's easy stuff. And you should know it in real life also. Because most people think your property doesn't transfer until you record it. And you're probably going to get some more arguments with people who have the wrong information for that.
It transfers regardless, yeah. But then when you record it, you're just making it public knowledge, per se.
It's constructive notice. Yeah, when does it transfer? In the closing room.
Take
In the closing room, when there's been those two words. Delivery and acceptance. Delivery and acceptance. How are we doing? I can say any of that again. Be comfortable with that, guys. Constructive, that's constructive notice. Then we have a contract, an irrevocable agreement to do or not to do something in its simplest terms. We have a, forget controller, how about conventional mortgages? The three main types of mortgages are conventional, that's private financing, then FHA and VA. Conversion. We convert a property. Conversion. Conversion is unauthorized appropriation of ownership rights over goods or property belonging to another. Also, altering one form or property to another, such as changing a household apartment building to a freehold condominium ownership. We convert a property. Remember, I have a 50-unit apartment building. I want to change it into condominiums. I will convert each one of those units into a separate condo. And how do I do that? I do it with a party wall, an invisible line that separates each one of those units. Each one of those lines is said to be, what's that word? Appurtenant to the other. It's an invisible line between all the units, and it separates the units. Now I have 50 individual condominiums that I can sell. Before I just had a 50-unit apartment building. Conversion. How are we doing? I can say any of that again. Everybody okay?
It says unauthorized appropriation. Yeah, why?
Let's read it again. Unauthorized appropriation of ownership rights over goods or property belonging to another. Also altering one form of property to another, such as changing a leasehold apartment building to freehold condominium ownership. Conversion. What is conversion? That's one way conversion is. Unauthorized conversion is when I take property out of an escrow account, I convert it to my own use. That's a criminal offense. That's conversion. I'm talking about two different types of conversion. One is the converting an apartment building into condominiums. The other one is conversion. I convert somebody else's money to my own use. Criminal offense. Okay, then we have conveyance. Conveyance is what? It's an instrument in writing by which a person transfers some estate. We convey a property. A covenant is a promise, it's a guarantee, it's a warranty, a covenant. What are the two deeds that have covenants? Special warranty deed and a general warranty deed. And then we have cubage. That's length times height times width. Height times length times width. Okay. Who took the eraser? Am I looking right at it? You probably am. Interesting. Never mind. Let's keep going. So cubage, and again, 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet. Let me put on the board, guys. Simple math. Okay, I have a hole that's 6 feet long, 6 feet wide, 6 feet deep, 6 feet long, and 6 feet wide. 6 by 6 by 6. How many cubic feet of dirt do I have in that hole?
18, right?
18 cubic feet? Who else? It's a hole. There isn't any dirt in it. It's a hole. Okay, let's keep going. Anyway. Are you awake now? You guys.
That's a test question.
You can laugh in here. Don't have to sit there and cry all the time. And then we have cubies. Then we have what? Let's go down to cul-de-sac. That's the end of the street. Some people love cul-de-sac lots. You don't have any traffic. Big backyards. I don't like them because there's no place to park. You can park one car straight in, and that's about it.
You get two.
Get two, maybe, yeah.
Two in ours.
Pretty lucky,
If
yeah.
there's a mailbox.
What's that?
If there's a mailbox there.
Yeah, and the mailbox usually there too, yeah. Anyway, but again, that's cul-de-sac lot. Curtsy. There are 3 types of legal estates. Curtsy is when who survives? The husband survives. When the wife survives, it's called dower. And the third legal life estate is no, that's the 3 legal life estates are dower, curtsy, and homestead. Homestead. Colorado does not recognize curtsy or dower. What are the 3 conventional life estates? I give you a life estate, upon your death it reverts back to me. Reversionary. I give you a life estate, upon your death it goes to someone else. That other person has a remainder. You have a life estate based on someone else's life. Per atra v. Per atra v. Okay. Is that in there? Or we cover that? We cover that heavy in law and practice and heavy in the Colorado. We covered just a couple sessions ago. So, then we have a customer. That's someone who I don't have a contract with. I'm showing him properties in the purest sense of the word. But in Colorado, if I'm working with one side as an agent, I can work with the other side as a customer, even though I do have a contract relation. So again, but for the purest sense of the word, guys, a customer is someone I don't have a contract with. Yeah.
What is the homestead life estate?
What is what now?
What is the homestead life estate? So we went over the current.
Not a homestead life estate. Well, it is kind of. What it is, if you go into bankruptcy or a foreclosure, you can, if you have enough equity, your taxes will be paid, all your liens will be paid, and then they will pay you up to $75,000, $105,000 if you're disabled. Then if there's any money left, it'll go against to your private debt. So that's how that works. It's very obscure. You usually have to give it up before you get your loan in Colorado. But don't be surprised when you see that again, that homestead exemption. Hopefully a light will come on and somebody asks you. Just remember that we give it up in Colorado for the most part. It'll be in your deed of trust. They'll mention that homestead exemption, how you give it up. You give up your right to that homestead. Hopefully that makes sense. Then, we have dedication, transfer of property. That's what a builder does. They dedicate the streets, they dedicate the parts to the city. By dedication. And the developer holds it for 2 years, keeps it for 2 years, keeps it up for 2 years, then they transfer to the city. Then the city is responsible for cleaning up the snow and everything else. A deed is a legal instrument of transfer, a deed. We have a deed restriction. A deed restriction, which is what? A CC&R, which stands for, what's a CC&R, guys? Covenants, conditions, and restrictions. A deed restrictions, CC&Rs, CIC documents, governing documents, bylaws, all of those are the same thing for real estate brokers. If you're a manager of an association, they are different. Deed restriction. Then default, a failure to perform, a default. Defeasible fee, a defeatable fee estate. It could be defeated by the actions. You do something you weren't supposed to do. Use the example, I give you this house, you can keep it so long as you don't convert it into a commercial structure. I use the word so long as, while, or during in the granting clause, and I describe something happening to the property. You changed it from residential to commercial. That's a fee simple, defeasible, determinable estate. It's a qualified or defeasible estate. The only thing you need to remember about these are what? They could be reclaimed in the grantor's name. They may be reclaimed in the grantor's name. Don't spend a lot of time trying to learn them. You just don't need to. Very, very rare in our industry. But for the state exam, you're going to have that one question. And you're going to get it.
Reclaimed in the grantor's name.
It's going to be called a qualified fee simple estate, may be reclaimed in the grantor's name. All of these questions I've given you guys are going to be on the state exam like this. They're not going to be word for word like that. Just the material's going to reference it like that. Okay. Then a deficiency judgment. You have a home go through foreclosure, you owe $200,000, it only sells for $150,000. The lender can get a deficiency judgment for that $50,000 difference. Deficiency judgment. Depreciation. Loss in value due to any cause. Let me ask you, what are the 3 approaches to value in an appraisal? What's that? No, those types of depreciation. What are the 3 types of depreciation? The 3 types of depreciation. We have what? We have the physical. Let's back up. What are the 3 approaches to value?
Oh,
Not the 3 types of depreciation. 3 approaches to value.
that's physical and functional.
We have the 3 approaches to value are what? Comparison approach,
Oh,
cost approach. Help me out.
income?
Income approach. Again, one more time. Comparison approach, cost approach, income approach. Which is the only one that recognizes depreciation? Cost approach. Good. Cost approach. And what's the definition of depreciation?
Something goes down in value.
Loss in value due to any cause. Loss in value due to any cause. Now, Lisa, what are the 3 types of depreciation? Physical, I'll start you out.
Functional.
Physical obsolescence or depreciation. What kind of shape is a property, and is what that means. Then we have functional obsolescence. Maybe you have outdated plumbing, outdated electric. Those are physical parts of a property, but it's a functional issue. Physical obsolescence, functional obsolescence. What's the third type?
External.
External obsolescence, also called economic obsolescence. One more time. Physical, functional, external are the three types of depreciation
Or obsolete.
or obsolescence. What are the three words for depreciation? Depreciation, obsolescence, and deterioration. Okay, guys. If you haven't had this yet, you're going to have it. You will have it. This is a great preview. A lot of this is a great review. Some of you, it's going to be a great preview. It's coming at you. Three types of depreciation are physical, functional, and external, also known as economic obsolescence.
And then the other that was comparison market income or the approaches.
Comparison, the comparison approach, the cost approach, and the income approach are the three approaches to value. Then we have three types of depreciation too. Loss in value due to any cause. Okay, then we have designated broker. Who appoints the designated broker? The employing broker does, a designated broker. And then we have a device. That's the gift of real estate by the last will and testament of a donor. A device is the actual will. He said a device is what's given away in a will, is the device. The person receiving is the devisee. What is personal property in a will called? Write this down somewhere. It's called a legacy. A legacy is personal property that's transferred through a will, is a legacy. Obscure question you're going to see on the state exam. I haven't seen it for a year or two. Legacy is what personal property is called in a will. Then we have diversion. I convert the funds or divert the funds to my personal use. Either way, it's a felony. Okay, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back.
Yep.
Good luck trying to sort them out. Am I right? As I say, I'll bend down and get that for you.
Well, thank
I know that
you.
your body's a little broken, so it's fine. You get a little worse than you are. Hey Jim, did I hear that Lauren's injuries were racquetball?
Hours a week.
I tell you what,
Those folks were.
that would be one of the most boring jobs in the world.
Right, she was trying to talk me to get into it. I was like.
You know, if all you did was review title policies, I'd be praying for death. It would be terrible, I'll tell you.
A month.
Okay, gang, let's rock. Top of page 6, documentary fee. Documentary fee. Colorado's the only state that has a documentary fee. How do we handle that? A documentary fee is 1/10,000th of the sales price. 1 penny for every $100 of sale price. One more time, 1/10,000th of the sales price, or 1 penny for every $100 of value. We cover this very heavily in closings. The documentary fee is reported to the county on a form called a TD-1000. TD-1000. It's 1 penny for every $100. It's hardly an income source. And so what is this documentary fee for? Proper tax assessment. The form they use is called a TD-1000, and the purpose of a TD-1000 is proper tax assessment. I just answered at least 2 and maybe 3 questions on the state exam right there about documentary fees. When we get to the Colorado portion, the closing portion, remember what we did in closings, how we figure out the documentary fee? I don't know what happened to that. Anyway, remember we have what, $198,000 sales price? What is the doc fee? We just take the decimal over 4 places, 1, 2, 3. Doc fee is $19.80 on a $198,000 property. If you're confused, you haven't had closings yet, and that's coming at you. So you'll get that down. With what? A vengeance? Yeah,
Did one for me and Ralph.
that's right. Okay, then we have a donee as a receiver of a gift, a donor as a giver of a gift. We have the dower, that's the rights of the wife when the husband dies first. Remember, Colorado does not recognize dower or curtsy. We're a common law state. When we stand up there and say, I do, you're saying, I do give you half of everything I own. That's how we handle it in Colorado.
As opposed to this dower and curtsy, it's 1/3 interest? As
Dower,
opposed to
and don't go into that, don't go into because all they're going to ask is this about dower and curtsy. Dower is the rights of the wife when the husband dies, and curtsy is the rights of the husband when the wife dies first. You're not going to have any questions on Colorado portion about dower and curtsy. Except there might be just a general question about what it is. It's one of the, it's part of the legal life estates. And so you're up there on the altar, you're giving away half of everything you own. And that brings into play the 3 rings of marriage. We have the engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. Remember that. That's worth the price of admission today, guys. Write that down. Then we have what? We have the due on sale clause. What is another word for that due on sale clause? Some other words. Due on sale. Transfer. Alienation. What kind of loan do I have? Conventional loan, because it's not assumable. If I alienate myself from this product, from this house, the lender will call the loan due. Due on sale clause. Duress. Someone forces me to sign a contract. There are 4 ways a contract may be voidable. What are they? Duress, insane by a doctor, underage,
Under the influence of alcohol.
and fraud. One more time. Fraud, duress, underage, and insane by a doctor are the 4 ways a contract may be voidable. How about void? Insane by a judge or a court. Illegal purpose. A verbal contract through the statute of frauds. Verbal contract for real property through the statute of frauds. Signing the contract before the lead-based paint disclosure is signed. Okay, those voidable and void.
Can you see the 4 words again?
The 4 voids are illegal purpose, insane by a court, like criminally insane. Help me out.
Fraud.
No, not fraud. Fraud's voidable. The statute of frauds, where all contracts for real property must be in writing, or else it's void through the statute of frauds. And signing the contract before the lead-based paint disclosure is signed. Those are the 4 ways a contract may be void. Void and voidable. We cover those many times in class. And we go over a ton of questions in class. Then, we have earnest money. That's other people's money, OPM. We have earnest money accounts. The earnest money is the account that takes the home off the market. It shows the seller how earnest the buyer is to buy the property. And then we have an easement. What's the definition of an easement? The right to use somebody's property for a particular purpose. Easement, the right to use someone's property for a particular purpose. And easement. Economic life. Those of you who've taken appraisal again, the amount of time, who can help me out here? A property. The amount of time a property will exist
For which the use it was built.
for the original purpose for which it was built. Again, economic life, the amount of time a structure will exist for the original purpose for which it was built. And economic life is based on not actual age, but
Intended.
effective. Good intended, I like intended better actually, but effective age, effective age.
So that number changes.
It does, yeah. Everybody has their own, we know exactly what the actual age is, but the effective age is it better than a home that's normally this age, or is it worse than a home that's normally that age? It's very
You mentioned
subjective.
a house that was 80 years old, but it actually still, it was representing itself as something that was only 30 years.
30,
That's less
then we came with a new remaining economic life on it, yeah, and that created its new economic life totally, of which half was utilized already. We came up with 60 years, we have it, so it's essentially 30 years old, even though it's 80 years old. Effective age,
And you had said that you couldn't qualify for a 30-year loan if the economic life was less than that?
less than 30 years old, exactly, yeah. Okay. Then we have eminent domain, the government or public taking of private property for the public good with just compensation by means of condemnation. Boy, guys, you gotta know that really well, and learn it my definition of it. It's got all of the pieces, yeah.
This definition doesn't include public, is that?
The government taking, the government or public, it kind of puts it in more of a perspective. The government is the public. We are the public. We are the government. The government or us taking private property for the public good with just compensation by means of condemnation.
Can the public do that?
That's what the condemnation is.
So like I could say, I don't like how my neighbor is using that corner of his property, and I think it's for the benefit of us all to take it from him.
That's why it's the government through the public taking, okay? I can put something through the government to get a property that I want to, that should be for commercial use. And so I can present that to the courts for that. I'm a member of the public. I'm a member, we're all members of the government. It's a government for the people, isn't it? By the people. So, then we have employing broker. We have 3 different levels: an associate broker, an independent broker, a one-person shop, and then an employing broker. You have people underneath you. This all came about in 1996. And we have encroachment and illegal intrusion onto somebody's property. My fence is 2 feet over or vice versa. Encumbrance. Anything that limits our use, title, interest, or value. Again, an encumbrance. Anything that limits our use, title, interest, or value. In here they have the encumbrance. They give you examples of encumbrances. It's not the definition of an encumbrance. An endorsement is a signing of a document. You endorse it by signing it. You sign it by endorsing it. And then equity, the difference between what a property is worth and what you owe. What you owe and what a property is worth is equity. Leverage. Leverage and equity are 2 different things. Loan to value and leverage. Equity is the amount, the difference between what you owe and what a property is worth is your equity. Where, again, when we're talking about other issues besides that, like leverage, is how much of other people's money that I'm using to buy this property. I'm highly leveraged. I'm using a lot of other people's money. Endorsement, I sign something, and then we have equity again. The difference between what a property, what you own a property and what it's worth is your equity. Equity of redemption is the period before the sale in a foreclosure. Escheat when someone dies intestate and they have no heirs, that estate will be settled through that state's laws of escheat. In Colorado, what's going to happen? The government's going to take that property, sell it, put that money into an escrow account for up to 21 years, and if nobody claims it, they give it to the county for the school district. Every state has escheat laws. And then we have escrow, OPM, other people's money. We put into an escrow account. We cannot mix our money or the company's money. How about escrow account? An escrow account, other people's money, OPM. An escrow agreement, OPM, other people's money. How are we going to handle that escrow account? An estate, there's two types of estates: freehold estate and a leasehold estate. Freehold and leasehold. If it's owned, it's a freehold estate. If it's leased, it's a leasehold. It's that simple. Then an estate at sufferance or a holdover tenant. It's not an estate at all. They're in there against the wishes of the owner. An estate at will. How can we end an estate at will? That's my buddy staying in my basement. How can I end it? Death of the parties, destruction of the property, sale of the property, or a 3-day notice of eviction. Those are the 4 ways we can eliminate an estate at will.
And then
When-
changing the locks.
And then changing the locks, yeah.
Can you
Anyway,
repeat that? Can you
pardon
repeat
me?
that again?
Yes, how can we end an estate at will? 3-day notice of eviction, destruction of the property, sale of the property unless other arrangements are made, and destruction of the property.
Oh, you said that.
Did I destruction of the property, sale of the property, death of the parties,
Oh, death. That was-
death of the parties, or a 3-day notice of eviction? Those are the 4 ways you can end an estate at will. Get those down really well, guys. You're gonna have a couple questions on estate at will, and they're easy if you just remember that. The 3-day notice of eviction you will definitely have.
Who's on the hook for the destruction? If he trashes the place or if the place is being torn down?
Yeah, who's responsible for that? You don't have a lease, you don't have it laid out. Who pays for the destruction of the property? But hopefully, you have, somebody should have insurance on that property, needless to say, so.
Is there a level of destruction you have to prove?
Level of destruction you have to prove, it all depends on what the local laws are. It could be, those things are mainly local, just like how many people can I have per bedroom? That's usually a very local thing. If you have a lease restrictions or rent restrictions, that's usually a very local government thing. Rent subsidies, things like that. Okay. And then we have tenancy for years. That's an actual lease. It has a definite beginning and ending date. An estate from period to period is when that lease turns over into a month to month. It doesn't have a definite ending date. It's an estate from period to period. Jump down to eviction. We talked about those last session. We have constructive eviction and actual eviction. Actual eviction is where you just kick the guy out. Then we have constructive eviction, where you move out because something affected the habitability of the property. You move out and then claim constructive eviction. And then we have estate from period, then we have eviction, then we have exclusive agency listing. In Colorado, it's called an exclusive broker listing. I list this property, no matter who sells it, I get paid unless the seller sells it himself, and then nobody gets paid. Execution. That's a writ issued by a court, a writ of execution. Maybe a sheriff's writ to get the people out of the property. An executor is someone named in a will to carry out its provisions. Fannie Mae is one of the secondary markets. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, and Farmer Mac. They do not loan money. They buy loans from banks, not credit unions, from banks. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, and Farmer Mac.
So you don't consider them insurance then, right?
No, FHA is an insurance company, but Fannie, Freddie, and
That's right,
Ginnie
they're the-
purchase
I remember.
loans. They purchase loans, the notes from banks.
I know the Farmer Mac's pretty self-explanatory, but what's the Jenny one?
Ginnie is the government. They only buy FHA and VA loans. It starts with a G. That's the way to remember that. When Fannie Mae went private, they subsidized it by getting Ginnie Mae going. Then in 1970, they started Freddie Mac. So those are the 3 main ones: Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie. And then Farmer Mac is just for rural properties. You guys will probably never see Farmer Mac.
Jenny is FHA or VA.
Jenny Mae only buys FHA and VA loans.
As does Fannie Mae.
Fannie only buys commercial, conventional, and commercial. Well, there's no commercial. It has to be, if it's got to be sold to the secondary market. They don't buy commercial loans. And remember, we have what? What are those lenders who don't sell to the secondary market? What are they called? What do they do and what are they called? They warehouse those loans in their portfolio. They're called portfolio lenders. Then they season them. Every time a payment is made on them, they become more valuable. They warehouse it in their portfolio in-house. And they season it. Every time a payment is made on it, it becomes more valuable. Portfolio lenders. Okay. Then we have exclusive right to sell listing. No matter who sells that property, I get paid, even if the seller sells it himself. Gives the broker the most protection. Execution. That's like a sheriff's writ of execution. In other states, that's what they use to start a foreclosure action, is a sheriff's writ. Here, we use the public trustee to issue an NED, Notice of Election and Demand. Then we have Fannie Mae. Well, actually, yeah, then we have an executor, Fannie Mae. Then we have fee simple absolute, and it's the most, and I highlight that word, comprehensive. The most comprehensive ownership interest we can have. Fee simple absolute.
I know we just went to page 8, but is that the very top, or is that the very bottom?
Number 8, top of the page, we have fee, tail. It doesn't exist anymore. Used to be, I'll give you this property and keep it so long as your heirs keep producing heirs. That's fee tail. We don't use it anymore.
That won't be on the test then.
Yeah, you could have a question. It's not going to be the right answer. Okay, if you see fee tail, it's not going to be the right answer.
So pick the wrong answer, and the wrong answer is going to be the right answer? I don't understand what you're trying to tell me to do.
No, if you see fee tail as one of the answers, that's not going to be the right answer.
It's multiple choice.
It's multiple
If it's one
choice,
of the choices,
yeah.
don't
Just pretend you never even heard of it.
That's it. Yeah, really, pretty much. Now you'll see a couple questions with that in it, and it's something that hasn't existed for hundreds of years. Anyway, remember number 2, don't let the bastards win. Don't let them get you. FHA is an insurance company. They insure the loans. Fiduciary is what you use in agency. That's a trust relationship. A fiduciary relationship is an agency relationship. We have a fixture. Something that's permanently affixed to a property is a fixture. Foreclosures. What are the foreclosures? What is the period before the sale in a foreclosure action? Equitable period. And after the sale, statutory period of redemption. And then we have a grantee, the person to whom a real estate is conveyed, like the buyer is the grantee, the seller is the grantor, and only the grantor signs the deed. Jump down to gross income multiplier. That's like a gross rent multiplier, except you use yearly income. Appraisers don't use that anymore. I just wish they get rid of it. We only use gross rent multipliers, not gross income multipliers, but you could see a question on it. Groundwater is an aquifer. That's where wells get their water from, aquifers, groundwater. Then we have a holdover tenant. Holdover tenant or a tenant at sufferance. They're there against the wishes of the owner. We have a homeowners association, HOA. Remember, who sets up the HOA? The developer. And then when 51% gets sold, they turn it over to the homeowners.
The holdover, I'm sorry, the holdover tenant, what did you say that again?
The holdover tenant or
against the owner.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they're against the wishes of the owner. Tenanted sufferance or holdover tenant, same thing. Homeowners Association, we just did that. Homestead exemption,
Also known as?
also known as, remember homestead exemption? That's where, again, $75,000, $105,000 if you're disabled, but you have to have a ton of equity in your house before that comes into play.
Is that gonna be on the test?
The homestead, yeah, there could be, they could ask you the 3 legal life estates and the 3 conventional life estates. Now, none of those are recognized in Colorado except for this homestead exemption. Remember, they have dower, curtsy, and homestead are the 3 legal life estates. What are the 3 conventional life estates? Actually, the life estates could be recognized in Colorado. We have what, and I give you a life estate upon your death, it reverts back to me, reversionary. I give you a life estate upon your death, it goes to someone else, that other person holds a remainder estate. And then you have a life estate based on someone else's life. That's an estate per attribute. You just don't see them in Colorado, ever. You see them back east, where there's some big money back east. Top of the next page, indemnify means to insure. Independent broker is where you're one-person shop. After 2 years, you can set yourself up as an independent broker. Talk about those specifics as we're going through the course. We have an installment land contract. What are some other words for an installment land contract? Land contract, installment land contract, owner will carry, contract for deed. And then we jump down to intestate, dying without a will. Intestate, testate is dying with a will. Then we have joint tenancy with right of survivorship. What are the 4 unities of joint tenancy? PITT, possession, interest, time, and title. What are the main differences between joint tenancy and tenancy in common? Survivorship, joint tenancy has survivorship. Joint tenancy cannot be willed. Joint tenancy cannot be probated. And joint tenancy must be in writing. The 4 unities of joint tenancy are different. Right of possession, we all have the same amount of interest. We took title at the same time with the same title interest.
Those are all equal divisions, so each member of that would get an equal portion.
You have to have an equal, everybody, if there are 10 of us, we all have 10% interest. Exactly.
And then we all get our share.
Yeah.
So it can't be willed, and what else?
Joint tenancy must be in writing. Joint tenancy cannot be probated. And it has to be in writing. If I don't put down what type of ownership, it will default to tenancy in common. That's our default provision. Okay. Judgment. That's a general lien. It encumbers everything you have. They can garnish your wages. They can sell your furniture. Bad news. Then land.
That's most of the time just stop the whole transaction
If you have a
client has
judgment,
that.
yeah, if you have a judgment, you can't sell your house, you can't buy a house, you can't buy a car. I mean, it's serious stuff.
Is that one of the first things you ask your client if he's,
No, that's why you get a pre-qual letter, though. They're gonna check that out. And a lot of people have judgments. And a lot of them don't even realize they do have a judgment. Now, a judgment disappears after 6 years. It's gotta be reinstated.
But they can take your personal possessions, right?
They can sell their furniture, they can just come up and pick up your car and take it. Yeah, they have a judgment against you.
So judgments go on people's credit reports?
Yes. Oh, judgments will destroy your credit. You
Yeah,
bet you. They're right up there with the bankruptcy
Worse
and a
than bankruptcy.
foreclosure. Yeah. Yeah, judgment will encumber everything you do.
Because it's only from the IRS, so.
Yeah, 6 years,
Yeah.
but then they'll reinstate it.
But if you want to sell it, sell your house, and you can pay off the judgment, you can
Yeah.
do that, right?
Of course. But see, that judgment follows the property too. That's why you can't sell your property if you have a judgment.
We have a
Actually-
judgment against the person or a property?
A judgment is against the person and the property. It encumbers everything you own. And it will follow that property, as well as it'll follow you.
Will a quick claim deed have an effect on that?
No.
Oh, not on that. No, a judgment is through the court. It's a court action. That's serious, serious
You try
stuff.
and tell
Yeah.
them to quit the claim?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, yeah, Ralph, right, Ralph.
Okay, guys, let's keep going here. So, again, joint tenants, then we have a judgment. Again, that's a general lien. Land is the real property you owe to the depths of hell, heights of heaven. And then we have a landlord is the owner of the property. We have the landlord's agent, who's the broker for the landlord. We have a lease. A lease is where the tenant receives possession and an implied right of quiet enjoyment in a lease, which means you can keep the landlord off the property. Then we have legal description. Remember, that's what we hang our hat on. Is a legal description, not the address, because you can change the address. The lessee is the tenant, the lessor is the landlord. A lien is a monetary encumbrance on a property, is a lien. Monetary encumbrance on a property. Life estates, there's 3 conventional life estates, remainder, reversionary, and per atra v. 3, then we have 3, those are the 3 legal life estates, dower, curtsy, and homestead. Top of page 10, a limited agent. I'm just selling his house. I'm just selling his house. I'm a single agent, a limited agent, usually the same thing. Lis pendens, there's an action pending on this property. It hasn't hit the property yet, it's pending. A lis pendens, that's Latin for a lien pending. We have a listing, exclusive right to sell listing is the one we mainly work with. We have a marketable or merchantable title. We have marketable title. It's a title insurance policy that assures we have marketable title. We have market value. Who determines market value? An appraiser. What determines market value? The market. Mechanics lien, that's a contractor's lien. They have to pay their laborers, then the suppliers, then they can pay themselves. Meets and bounds. What are the 3 ways we measure property? Meets and bounds, lot and block, and government survey. Government survey, meets and bounds, lot and block, through a recorded plat. If you haven't had that yet, guys, it's coming at you in another week, a couple weeks actually. Then we have a mill is 1/10 of 1%. That's how we base our taxes, on a mill levy. A mortgage is what? Is a lien. Actually, it's what? A mortgage is not the money. The mortgage is the security for the debt. The mortgage is the security for the debt. It's not the money. In Colorado, we use deeds of trust. We don't use mortgages. A mortgagee is the borrower, is the what? The lender. The mortgagor is the borrower. Mortgagee is the lender. Remember the money, the mortgagee, and the mortgagor is the borrower. Who's still confused on that? You're all comfortable with that, I hope. And then we have multiple listing service, MLS. That's how we market our properties the main way. Mutual assent, mutual consent, meeting of the minds, mutuality. We're all in this together. Nobody's playing games. National Association of Realtors will belong to, that's one of the greatest lobbying groups in the nation. And they're on our side. Good thing we have them. Yeah.
Do you say in Colorado we use a deed of trust or deed?
We use the deed of trust. The deed is the instrument of transfer. The deed of trust is what? The security for the promissory note. Top of the next page, we have the National Forest. We all know what national forests are here. Then we have a negotiable instrument. The promissory note that we have is a negotiable instrument. It can be sold. A net listing. A net listing is where the guy just wants a certain amount, anything over and above that I can keep. That's a net listing, not allowed in most states. It is allowed in Colorado. It's not allowed because it could encourage the broker to be dishonest. A net listing. A note is a written document acknowledging a debt, is a note. A promissory note is an example. Obsolescence. Obsolescence. What is two other words for obsolescence? Depreciation, deterioration, obsolescence. All mean the same thing. Offer, to present for sale, an offer. The offeree is the one who is the one who receives the offer. The offeror is the one who makes the offer. Offeror, offeree. An open listing. I list with several brokers. If any of them sell it, they get paid. If I sell it, nobody gets paid. But you can't put it in the MLS. You guys will never work with an open listing your whole career if you work in Denver. Then we have an opinion, an option. I have an option, a rent with option to buy your property, a rent with option. Then we have an optionee. The optionee is the one who requests, receives, or stands to benefit from an option is the optionee, and the optionor is the one who grants an option to another. The optionee, I'm going to buy your property maybe. I have an option on your property. I'm the optionee. It's your property. You're the optionor. The only one making a promise is you. I'm not promising to buy your property. A party wall, same as an appurtenant easement. It changes apartments into condominiums, a party wall. A patent is an instrument of conveyance of government-owned land, a patent. That's the highest form of ownership you can have because the government's the only one that's ever been on title. It's the cleanest title you could possibly have is a patent. A percentage lease. Talked about this a couple sessions ago, where you have a set amount for a lease, for your rent, and then a percentage of your gross sales. It's not a gross lease, it's a percentage lease. It's a percentage of your gross sales. You're going to have that on the exam, guys. Don't miss that one. And then we have a percolation test. That should determine how much sewage that the ground will absorb. Periodic tenancy is an estate from period to period. There again, like month-to-month tenancy is a periodic tenant. And personal property is easily moved. Personal property, personal T, chattel, all mean the same thing. A plat, a recorded plat, and a plat map, lot and block, all those go hand in hand. A plat map, recorded plat, lot and block. That's how we have our legal descriptions here in the town. Then we have police power. That's the most restrictive of all government limitations. It covers what you can do, which is zoning, how you can do it, which is building codes, and floodplains. That's what police power covers. Top of the next page, a power of attorney creates an attorney in fact. Not an attorney at law, but an attorney in fact, a very limited right to sign for someone. Power of attorney. The principal is someone who authorizes or employs someone, a principal. The principal to the contract. Then we have the principal note is the promissory note, is the principal note securing the property. The principal note. The promissory note. Then the property. And this is anything that can be owned, depths of hell, heights of heaven, plus our bundle of rights, which gives it its value. Then we have the public trustee. Every county in Colorado has a public trustee. They're appointed by the governor, except for Denver where they're elected, the public trustee. Purchase money mortgage is any loan used to purchase a property. It's called a soft money mortgage because you never touch the money. It goes right around you to the seller. Then you refinance the property. That's a hard money mortgage because you do touch it. Soft money and hard money. And then we have a quadrangle. That's 4 townships by 4 townships. It's 24 miles by 24 miles. Huge piece of property. A quadrangle. Or a check. A check and a quadrangle are the same thing. Quiet title suit. That's how one of the ways you eliminate a lien on a property. The other way is with a quitclaim deed or just pay it off. Quiet title suit. Quitclaim deed, someone quits their claim for the property. It's spelled with a T, not a CK. I think that probably surprised some of you. You thought it was spelled with a CK. It's not. You're actually giving away your title. You're giving away your claim to the property.
What do you say, eliminate the deed?
No, it eliminate a lien,
Or the
not a
lien, I'm
deed.
sorry.
Eliminate a lien. Yeah. You'll quit your claim that you have against my property. Then we have real estate is real property. The realty and the land is the real estate. Then real property, the land, the surface of the earth, and whatever is erected upon it is the real property. A realtor, a member of the National Association of Realtors, and of course it's 2 syllables, not 3. Realty, real property, land, and the real estate is realty. A receiver is a court-appointed someone who receives a property out of a probate action. It may be the executor, it may be the administrator. Could be somebody else. Somebody who's appointed to receive a property coming out of probate. Recording, entering an instrument into the public records. County clerk and recorder's office is a recording. The rectangular survey system is the U.S. government survey system. We're measuring property by sections and townships. This is known as the rectangular survey system. Guys, you're going to have that question. We have rectangular survey system, meets and bounds, and lot and block are the 3 ways we measure property in the United States. If you haven't had that yet, can you flip that around? Good. Okay, thank you. Okay. And then we have our equitable and statutory period of redemption, top of page 13. Before the sale, it's equitable. After the sale, statutory. We have a release is the relinquishment or surrender of a right, claim, or interest, a release. And like a release of lien, the discharge or release of a specific property from a charge or a lien. Restrictive covenants, CC&Rs, deed restrictions. All of those are the same thing. Right of survivorship is found in what? Joint tenancy with right of survivorship. A right-of-way is an easement to cross somebody's property. You have a right-of-way to cross somebody's property. You have a salesperson. In Colorado, we still have salespeople, but they're the people whose license are in inactive status are called salespeople. Then we have season. That always has to do with a general warranty deed. It has to do with the first right under a general warranty deed. And what's the first right under a general warranty deed? Remember? Covenant of season, which means possession. When I'm transferring to you, I have the right. That's the covenant of season. Remember that? Associated with a general warranty deed. It's the only time it's used in our industry is season. It means possession. It's Latin for possession. A seller's agent You're the agent for the seller, you're the listing broker. Single agent, you're just selling his house. You're not a property manager. You're just selling his house. You're a single agent. A special assessment, you have your ad valorem taxes, then you might have a special assessment because they put a sidewalk in front of your house, the government did or something. And then put a special assessment against your property. Special warranty deed, that's what developers give. It only has 2 promises. I did receive a deed and I've done nothing to damage that deed since I've owned it. Special warranty deed and a general warranty deed are the only 2 deeds that have promises. Specific performance, I have a right to, I can force somebody to specifically perform what they said they would do. Those are the 2 remedies we have for default in Colorado. Specific performance, what's the other one? Liquidated damages, what's that mean? You lose your deposit. You lose your deposit. Liquidated damages and specific performance are the 2 remedies or penalties for default. It means the same thing. Then we have a statutory right of redemption that's after the foreclosure sale is statutory. We have a subordination clause. I have a second mortgage and there's a clause in it where it agrees to stay subordinate to any first lien that's put on that property. That's a subordination clause. Surrender. This has to do with leases, where we all agree to I agree to surrender the lease, you agree to take it. Top of the next page is survey. Is the measurement of a piece parcel of land and its characteristics. This is what's done when a property is first built. Later on, we suspect an encroachment. We'll order an ILC, Improvement Location Certificate. Then we have transaction at sufferance or in a state at sufferance, a holdover tenant. They're against the wishes of the owner. A tenancy at will. That's what the 3-day notice of eviction. If the property is destroyed, the parties die. All of those mean the same thing. That's how it can end. Or sale of the property. Tenancy in common. You don't have right of survivorship. You don't have to have the same amount of interest. That's our default provision if we leave that line blank. Tenancy in common. Then we have the tenant agent. You're an agent for the tenant. Testate. Dying with a will, intestate is without a will. A timeshare is interval ownership. You own it for a week out of the year or 2 weeks out of the year. That's a timeshare. Then you have a title. A deed and a title are the same thing. Same thing. They're the physical piece of property that transfers title. Title insurance. This proves the marketability or merchantability of your property. Typically, the seller buys title insurance. It's up to the seller to make sure his property is merchantable or marketable. Same thing. And then we have a torrent system. That's the 3rd type of title we have in Colorado. We have an abstract and opinion, the actual title insurance, and a torrent system, which works just like a quiet title. They use this in eastern Colorado, where these counties might only be open a couple days out of the month. No title company is going to stand behind those titles. And so what they do is they put an article in local newspaper saying if anybody has a claim on this property, come forth. And if nobody comes forth, they clear the title. That's a torrents action. It's only used in 10 states. A tort is a private wrong. Something you could get sued for. It's not criminal necessarily. Transaction broker is our default provision. If we don't say how we're working with someone, we're automatically a transaction broker. A treasurer, we have the state treasurer who's responsible for collecting the taxes in that particular county. We have a county treasurer. Then we have a treasurer's deed. That's the deed you're going to get when you buy a property at a tax foreclosure sale, is a treasurer's deed. Then you have a trust deed or a deed of trust. That's the security for the loan, security for the money. Other states, they have mortgages. We don't. We have deeds of trust in Colorado. And rectangular survey, United States government or rectangular survey system. That talks about sections, townships. And then we have VA. VA guarantees the loan, FHA insures the loan. Those are the two government loans. Then we have conventional loans. Now pay attention to these next two guys, the vendee and vendor. There's a question on the state exam. These are the parties in an owner will carry. The owner becomes the vendor, and if you're buying it, you're the vendee. Vendor is the guy who owns the property. The vendee is the person buying it, and an owner will carry. You're going to have an obscure question on the state exam. It's easy if you just remember that. Vendor and vendee, and owner will carry.
So the vendor is the owner.
Vendor is the owner. You're buying it. You're the vendee. It's the opposite of mortgagee and mortgagor.
But
The opposite.
when you say owner will carry, is that just a statement for those terms, or?
No, what owner will carry, where the seller is making, he's putting $200,000 profit, he can put it in the bank at 0.5%, or he can give a loan to the guy who just bought his property, carry it back himself at 8%, and have the property as security for the loan. So that's an owner will carry, contract for deed, land contract, installment land contract. All of those mean the same thing. And it's a contract for deed because you don't get your deed until you pay the whole thing off. It's a contract for deed. Then we have vicarious liability. That's where you could be responsible for the acts of someone else. We don't have it in the real estate industry anymore in Colorado, but a bartender still has it. If he overserves somebody and they get in a wreck, he could conceivably be sued. A waiver is an abandonment of a claim or right. You waive your rights. Then we have a warranty deed, general warranty deed, and a special warranty deed are the two types of warranty deeds. A writ of execution is a court serving of a document. A writ of execution, you're just not going to hear anything about those on the state exam. Now, let's do this, guys. Let's put a line right down the middle of this page, and let's do this. On one side, we're going to put the bundle of rights. The other side, we're going to put the warranties on a general warranty deed, because they're so similar. But if you see them side by side, you'll be able to separate them. And there's some tricky questions on the state exam. They want you to transfer those definitions and get them wrong. Let's do the bundle of rights first. What's the first right in the bundle of rights? Possession. Possession. Number 2, don't read them. Use or control for any legal purpose. Possession. Use or control for any legal purpose.
What was the first one again?
Possession. Use or control for any legal purpose. The use or control for any legal purpose. The third one is quiet enjoyment. We have a right to quietly inhabit our property. Possession, use or control for any legal purpose. Quiet enjoyment. The fourth one, exclusion. We can keep people out. Possession, use or control for any legal purpose. Quiet enjoyment. Exclusion. And the last one is disposition. We can sell it. Possession, use or control for any legal purpose. Quiet enjoyment. Exclusion, keep people out. And disposition. D-I-S-P-O-S-I-T-I-O-N. Disposition, just like it sounds. Then, on the next side, put down general warranty deed. General warranty deed. Now in this thing, guys, all this, we were talking earlier and somebody said, well, you have so much patience. I don't know. People say that to me and say, I really don't. It's just I've been doing this for so long, it just kind of happens.
That was my wife.
Your wife? Well, what happens, guys, you know, I've been doing this since the 70s. You're supposed to say I don't look that old.
Jim, I was-
You all blew it. Every one of you blew
I was
it.
born in the
That
70s.
just sucks. Now remember, kissing up to the instructor is not only allowed, it's encouraged. And Starbucks always works, the chocolate chip macchiatos, okay? Anyway. How about a general warranty deed? Let's do these real quick, and then we'll call it a day. First of all, in a general warranty, the first one, we just talked about it 10 minutes ago. Season, covenant, which means possession, covenant of season. What I'm transferring to you, I have the right to transfer. Covenant of season. Number 2, covenant against encumbrances. Covenant against encumbrances. Anything that limits our use, title, interest, or value, right? But every property has encumbrances. It's a covenant against encumbrances except those mentioned in the deed or title policy. Covenant of season. Covenant against encumbrances except those mentioned in the deed or title policy. The third is quiet enjoyment again, which means protection from third party, means something completely different than the bundle of rights. Protection against third parties that say they have an interest in what I'm transferring to you, just protection from third parties, and the way I will enforce that is with the fourth covenant of further assurance, not insurance, assurance with an A. I'll provide whatever documents I have to, I'll even go to court to protect you. Covenant of further assurance. Covenant of season, which means possession. Covenant against encumbrances, except those mentioned in the deed or title policy. Covenant of quiet enjoyment, protection from third parties. And I will enforce that through the covenant of further assurance. I'll provide whatever documents I have to, I'll even go to court. And the last one is warranty forever. I warranty it forever in the past, which subsequently warrants it forever in the future.
Now, what type of warranty, I know we kind of talked about this on Monday, but what type of warranty would that include?
This is just a promise. I promise that if anybody who says they have an ownership interest other than what I say I'm giving to you, I will produce whatever documents I have to. I'll even go to court to protect you and this instrument I'm transferring to you. It's all about you. Remember, you want to give a special warranty deed. You want to give a special warranty deed. You want to get a general warranty deed. Much stronger. General warranty deed is much stronger than a special warranty deed.
I mean, doesn't the title insurance kind of come into play with that, or not?
The title insurance, of course, is what? The type of deed. Look at all the protections you have, guys. You're going to have people showing you how to fill out the deed and how to fill it out. You're going to have your title insurance protecting you. When you sell your property, you're only going to give a special warranty deed, which only warrants it for the time you've owned it. These are all ways to protect yourself. And then you have your title insurance policy, which guarantees or assures marketability, merchantability. And warranty forever. You warranty it forever in the past, which warrants it forever in the future. Yes.
Repeat, like all those protections.
Let's do all 5 of those in the general warranty deed again. Covenant of season, which means possession. Covenant against encumbrances, except those mentioned in the deed or title policy. Quiet enjoyment. Protection against third parties, and I will enforce that with the 4th covenant of further assurance. Further assurance. I'll produce whatever documents, I'll even go to court. And the last one, warranty forever. You warranty it forever in the past, which warrants it forever in the future.
So what does quiet enjoyment mean in the bundle of rights?
In the bundle of rights, it means what it says. We have a right to quietly enjoy our property.
So that's more in a lease.
One of the what?
That's more in like a lease.
No, then we have our quiet enjoyment in a lease. When a lease, it means something completely different. It means we can keep the landlord out. We've got 3 different, they're exactly the same thing. They're called quiet enjoyment, but they're for three completely different purposes. We have the quiet enjoyment in the bundle of rights. We have a right to quietly inhabit our property. We have it in our lease. We can keep the landlord out. And in a general warranty deed, it's a protection from any third-party interest. How we doing, guys? Lots of information coming at you. Again, we covered this whole book this afternoon. In like 3 hours, we covered this whole book in pretty good detail. Tomorrow, we're going to do the 125 questions. Get those down, guys. And like I say, if you're not sure what the answer is, just leave it blank. We'll go over that tomorrow. If there are any questions about anything.
Jim,
Yeah.
you said, I mean, I know we got all these protections built in, but when you just said that, you kind of summed it up, all the protections that we have. Were they again?
In what?
Just like, I mean, we have the warranty, we have the title insurance.
Well, things that are protecting us in any given transaction.
Yeah.
We have the type of deed we're going to use. We have our title insurance. We have the lender who's protecting us. The title people are protecting us. The type of deed we're using is protecting us. We have all of these protections out there, guys. That's why it's so rare for a broker to ever get sued. Don't get paranoid about getting sued, guys. It just doesn't happen that often. And if you do get sued, doesn't mean you're going to lose. Plus, we have errors and omissions insurance.
And that's 2,500?
Try that again.
2,500?
For what? Errors and omissions?
Yeah.
No.
What did-
That's the most you can be sued.
That's the most.
for.
That's the most highest penalty you can get.
Okay.
Oh, that was
From-
penalty.
Yeah, that's the penalty, the fine from the real estate
Oh, we need to
commission.
know that for the test?
Yeah, on the
Okay.
Colorado portion, yeah.
So a realtor's fine could be 2,500.
2,500 for realtor, yeah. For an appraiser, there's no limit. Okay, guys, I will catch you in the morning.
Hey, Jim, do you know about when you might be up tomorrow?
What time will be out of here tomorrow? Oh, it's be an early day tomorrow.
Earlier day?
Early day tomorrow, yeah.
And the errors and omissions, what does that go up to?
Errors and omissions, again, that we cover that when we get to the trust account part. And we go down with, well,
Yeah.
and actually we covered pretty heavy. No, we covered real heavy. We just covered it here last week in the contracts part of the course. Where what's in that title policy. Remember I told you the story about the pagoda house? Remember that story? That's why I tell you these stories, guys, so these lights will come on. That's one where the guy had the little stream inside his house.
I do remember the story, yeah.
Yeah.
What, I know that for our insurance, errors stands for like, if we mess up, but the one's an omission, what's the?
Well, you either make a mistake or you leave something out.
Okay.
Yeah, errors and omission
Hey,
policy.
don't leave, just shut up.
Okay.
I'll walk downstairs with you. All right, see you guys tomorrow.